What up, YouTube? Cam that guy here, back once again with another YouTube video, man. So in this YouTube video, we're about to be talking about outside paint. You know what I'm saying? In my previous video, I mentioned I was gonna do this. A little bit of a delay, you know what I'm saying? But here we go with this video, right? So I want to talk about outside paint. So let's go ahead and get into it, man. So outside paint, outside paint, outside paint. Let's go ahead and begin. So outside paint, you know what I'm saying? Whatever pertains to paint, outside paint. Let me say this real quick, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't a lot of painters, right? You know what I'm saying? When they come in, they get the cheapest outside paint. You're probably wondering, why did I do that? You know what I'm saying? Because they know how to use it well. You see what I'm saying? They know how to get the bright primer, they know how to apply the paint. Most times, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they do go with sprayers or shit, but in other cases, they do manually put on the paint. It depends on what type of building they're doing. You know what I'm saying? And depends on the painter and shit. You know what I mean? But let's just say they're doing it physically. You know what I'm saying? All that other shit, right? You know what I mean? Well, you know what I'm saying? You gotta have the right painter. They don't know how to apply it, how much paint to get out. You know what I'm saying? All that other shit. All that plays a role. You know what I'm saying? That's what it comes down to. This shit. You know what I mean? So, a lot of experienced painters they go for the cheapest end paint because they know how to use it. You know what I'm saying? But when it pertains to you know what I'm saying people that are beginners or intermediate, you know what I'm saying? I would definitely say you know what I'm saying. Here is advice to you where it pertains to giving doing exterior paints. So anyway, here we go, man. Definitely, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go with Home Depot standards, right? So if I'm doing a regular house, let's say I'm doing this apartment, this whole apartment building, right? And I'm doing it physically, you know what I'm saying? If I want to paint it, what quality paint would I use? I would definitely get something that already has paint primer in it, obviously. You know what I'm saying? And the sheens that they have for exterior, you know what I'm saying, is flats, satin, semi-gloss, and they do have a high gloss. But from and Home Depot cases, it's only in Premium Plus, right? But and then you go to Bear Ultra, they have flat, satin, semi-gloss. Marquee, flat, satin, semi-gloss. Dynasty, flat, satin, semi-gloss. So you only getting three sheens when it pertains to outside, to Home Depot standards. That's what I'm going off of, right? You know what I mean? So that's what you get it, right? You know what I'm saying? So you're probably wondering, well, which quality paint would I use in this instance? Well, if let's say I'm just doing this apartment, honestly, you know what I mean? It sounds kind of typical, right? But I would go with a Premium Plus just because, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna, and I would, the sheen I would use a semi gloss, you know what I'm saying? So why would I go with this Premium Plus, a semi gloss, this shit? I mean, I feel like there's no need for Ultra because it's not a high traffic area, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of open and shit, you know what I mean? So in other words, like, it's not around a lot of shit where trees is falling on it or it's getting a lot of debris. You know what I'm saying, or anything like that. It don't get no markers. I don't have no, you know, kids playing around, none of that shit. You know what I mean? So I don't need the Ultra or the Marquee. I damn sure don't need that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I mean? I would definitely, you know what I'm saying, go with Premium Plus. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would go with and shit. You know what I mean? And then next, you know what I'm saying? You're probably wondering, okay, well, how much do you think you will need for this apartment complex? For the outside of it, I don't know how much square footage this is, but a 5 gallon covers roughly about 1,200 square feet. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I don't know how big this apartment is, but I would say you can get me two 5 gallons. You know what I'm saying? I would say that much. I mean, I think that would work, and then you give me a 5 gallon primer. You know what I'm saying? That's what you could do, right? So I'll take a Kills 2. You know what I'm saying, for primer, and then I'll go over this twice. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'll do and shit. You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't know how big this apartment is. So I don't really know, you know what I mean? But that's what I would do. You know what I'm saying? I would just make sure everything is primed. You know what I'm saying? Then after it's primed, go over it twice, obviously. Because, Premium Plus is a two-coat paint. So I would do that and shit, right? You probably wondering, well, would you roll or brush? You know what I'm saying? Well, here's what I would say. I seen a painter at my house use a brush. You see what I'm saying? And I was thinking to myself, like, why would he go through that, trouble, this, that, and the third? But it makes sense and shit. So I would definitely, because the brush, it's better off, you know what I'm saying, than a roller. A roller is just, it's very widespread. I recommend rollers more for indoors, right? For outdoors, I do recommend, a brush. I will only use a roller on a deck or an interior space. I would not use a roller on the outside of the house. So unless I'm reaching something high up I can't reach. You know what I mean? So the brush does make sense, and then you can use a sprayer as well. Sprayers, you can't use paint sprayers for exterior only. Do not use a paint sprayer inside because it will splatter all over the place. So I would definitely, use a spray painter outside as well. You know what I'm saying? But overall, a brush, is the best physical use. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to doing outside, because you're really getting into it. You know what I'm saying? You're really getting into it. Whereas a roller, it could be a little misleading when it comes to outside. When you do something outside, you really want to make sure the paint is being applied. You see what I'm saying? When you're using a roller or some shit, it's just going on there. You see what I'm saying? So in other words, what I'm saying is when you use a brush, it applies better, obviously, and it adheres and everything gets absorbed and the ingredients work better versus just using a roller that kind of just goes and shit, and looks can be deceiving and shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how it goes and shit. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's what I would do and shit. And then, yeah, I would, brush very, very carefully, this, down, the third. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would do and shit. You know what I mean? So, and I figured that out based off common sense. I mean, it made sense. I mean, the more I think about it, I'm like, you know what, this makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So I always say, things be a little trial and error. You know what I'm saying? Things you come across and shit with paint and shit, but that's kind of just how it be and shit. You know what I mean? But yeah, I would definitely use a brush and shit like that. You know what I mean? And then yeah, you know what I'm saying? Just go from there and shit. You know what I mean? That's what I would do and shit. Outside of that, you know what I'm saying? Make sure you do it on a sunny day and then wait about 4 to 6 hours or until dry to repaint again. I'm gonna repeat that. Wait about 4 to 6 hours or until dry to paint again. Never repaint paint when it's wet. So you might put some paint on, right? You might wait 4 to 6 hours. It still be wet. Do not put that paint on again. You know what I'm saying? Because then you want to diffuse the process of the coating of with paint. It has to completely dry before you reapply it, right? So when you go outside and shit, make sure it's sunny. That the forecast, like, you got a bunch of yellow suns across the board type shit before you go with the outside of a house. Make sure you have a bunch of yellow suns before you paint the outside of a house. Do not do it while it's raining. Do not do that shit. I'm pretty sure that's common sense. I mean, anybody would know that, right? You know what I mean? And then aside from that, you know what I'm saying? What you would do, you know what I'm saying, is make sure it's completely dry. Make sure you feel it and shit. Make sure it's dry. Then, you know what I'm saying, you reapply that paint again. You know what I'm saying? That's what you do and shit, you know what I mean? Outside of that, I mean, that's pretty much it. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much the what I would do, you know what I'm saying, for this apartment. You know what I'm saying? I would, get a 5 gallon of Kills 2, 2 5s of premium exterior. I'll get semi-gloss. And yeah, like I said, I don't know the square footage. So, you know what I mean? I don't know the square footage. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just giving an example. This is just an example. I don't know the square footage. Do not know the square footage of this apartment. I'm assuming it's probably maybe 700, 800 square feet. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know. So that's why I say, you know what I mean? I think, you know what I'm saying, this will be good. I mean, maybe 2 kills, maybe. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It depends how the kills apply on the shit. I mean, if it's thick enough, then I think it's good. You know what I'm saying? If the primer is not applying it as thick, then I will put some more primer on, obviously. So in other words, if it looks kind of, see-through, then I think that's an issue. When you prime, you want it to fully be on there. You know what I'm saying? So if it's not fully like it looks like paint, then I would definitely put more primer on there. But I'm just saying, if the Kills 2 applies properly. I don't know how big this shit is, you know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third, you know what I mean? But I'm just using that as an example, you know what I mean? All that other shit, right? But yeah, and then I'll go over it with the paint twice, because that's what you're supposed to do, and then go from there and shit, you know what I mean? But yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much all I can really say about the exterior of a house if I'm doing it and shit like that. And that's pretty much it, you know what I'm saying? That's pretty much all I can really talk about for that. Now, you know what I'm saying? Let's talk about for example, outside of a house, let's say, let's go into debt work. You know what I'm saying? Let's go into debt work, right? You know what I mean? Let's talk about stains real quick, right? So there's different type of stains, right? So with stains, you got, let me see if I remember correctly. You got transparent, semi-transparent, and full, I think. So I think it's full, semi-transparent, and transparent, right? So I think that's how it goes. I know semi-transparent is when it's like you semi, you know what I mean, or seeing through it, right? Transparent, I believe. Transparent should be completely see-through, I believe, if I remember correctly. Or it could be the other way around. It could be when it's completely full, according to the paint terms. I don't really remember, but I feel like transparent, just based off of like a common definition, transparent means you're being like, you're seeing through, like, or you're being like, like see-through. I mean, transparent doesn't mean like see-through and shit. So I'm assuming, you know what I mean, that transparent in paint means like it's see-through, and then semi-transparent means it's you can kind of see through, and then full, you know what I'm saying, is when whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? But I don't remember the terms and shit for it. But I do know with each stain of the stains, they have a full one when you apply it some shit. It looks like paint. Then they got one, you know what I'm saying, when it's kind of you can kind of see it, and then they got one where you can see all the way through. You know what I'm saying? So I do know that much. I don't remember the names of it. It's been 2 years since I did that shit, right? But I do remember, you know what I'm saying, how the stains work and shit. You know what I mean? So let me say that for clarity. You know what I mean? Wherever it tends to everything else, look. You know what I mean? Depending on, let's say what you're staying in, right? You know what I'm saying? A lot of people for outside work, let's say what do you want to stay outside? Let's say a deck. You usually roll with that, right? Let's say you want to stay a deck. You know what I'm saying? Well, you gotta take a look at the deck. You know what I'm saying? Is it rough? Is it smooth? All that shit plays a role, and I'll determine the naps you want to use and go with on a deck. You know what I'm saying? I obviously, you know what I'm saying, when you look at the naps, it's going to say, it's going to have like the texture of it, all that shit, you know what I mean? So look, you know what I'm saying, if it's a smooth deck, you know what I'm saying, obviously, you know what I'm saying, you can get less naps, all that other shit. If it's a little bumpy or some shit, get more and make sure, you know what I mean, you get the correct brand of roller and all that other shit, right? You know what I mean? And then, you just go from there and shit, you know what I'm saying? You just go ahead and go with that shit. You know what I'm saying? Outside of that, you know what I'm saying? When it pertains to the decking with the stains and shit like that, I mean, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I would say, you know what I mean, just apply it and shit and go from there. I'm trying to see what else I can talk about when it comes to stains and shit. I don't know what else to talk about when it comes to stains. Um, Oh, you can tint stains, obviously. You can tint it. I'm pretty sure niggas know that. I can change the color of it and shit like that. And of course, they have stains pre-made, and they have some that you can change the colors to. And let me see. I believe what else when it comes to stains and shit like that. I don't know. I mean, that's about it. And then obviously, you know what I'm saying, before you apply the stain onto the deck, you want to make sure you smooth it out as much as possible with any type of um, device or machinery you have. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you do that as well. And, vice versa when it comes to paint. The same thing what I said from stains, it applies to paint as well. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? I don't have to reiterate, you know what I'm saying, all that bullshit. So this applies to the paint as well if you're doing the deck and all that other shit. And then that's about it. Also, you know what I'm saying, you can spray, you know what I'm saying, paint and stains as well. You can do that as well, you know what I'm saying? Most people actually do that, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to paint or whatever the case may be, you know what I'm saying? So you can't do that shit and even stains, you know what I'm saying? You can't do that. You know what I mean? But when it pertains to everything else, you know what I mean, that's about it and shit, you know what I mean? That's pretty much all I really gotta say when it pertains to debt work and shit like that of the paint and shit, you know what I mean? Next, you know what I'm saying? Next, you know what I'm saying? What else can I talk about with outside work? Let me see. Let me see. What else can I talk about with outside work? So I mentioned a house, I mentioned a deck. So I guess, let's say you're painting, you know what I'm saying, a roof. Let's get into roof work. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, let's get into groundwork. Let's get into groundwork. Let's get into some concrete. And then we'll go to roof work. So let's get into concrete, right? If I'm painting concrete, what do I want to get? You know what I'm saying? How I want to go about doing concrete flooring. You know what I'm saying? How I want to go about that? Well, you know what I'm saying? Definitely, you know what I'm saying? What I would roll with, I would go with, God damn, boy, body going off like a bitch. You know what I'm saying? This is why it'd be so crazy. Like niggas just be jealous of me and shit. Like, bro, like let me talk. Like fuck. So, anyways, you know what I'm saying? You're going, you know what I'm saying, with the outside, you know what I'm saying, of a floor or whatever, right? So at Home Depot, you know what I mean, they had a couple different options, but they really only had mainly two. You know what I'm saying? Let me see if I remember correctly, right? So one of the options they had like an epoxy. You know what I'm saying? You will apply this first, this, that, and there, and then it was another paint that you kind of put over it. So it's kind of just like a primer paint type of thing. You know what I'm saying? That's what you would do and shit like that. You know what I mean? It was definitely two type of things you would do or some shit. And then obviously, you know what I'm saying, they got a regular concrete paint and all that other shit that works as well and shit like that, you know what I mean? So you use that as well and some shit. Those are the only two concrete paints I remember at Home Depot. You know what I'm saying? Is the original concrete paint and then that little epoxy and then that other thing that they had with it. And they also had it in the kit as well. So you can use those two. That's all I remember for Home Depot standards. So use that shit, you know what I mean? And then, you know, get the roller, you can spray it, you know what I'm saying? Or you could, you know, get a roller. And let me say this, you know what I mean? For people that use paint spreads, you have to dilute it. You know what I mean? So what that means, you have to put, they're gonna say on the box how much water to put in depending on how much the square footage of paint that it covers and shit, how much you're holding in the paint. You know what I mean? That's what you do. So you have to definitely water down paint because paint is too thick to spray, obviously. So that's the machine gonna get fucked up. So you gotta water it down a little bit in order for it to go and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So let me just let niggas know that and shit like that, right? You know what I mean? But that's pretty much all I can say for the concrete flooring. You know what I mean? I mean, pretty simple shit, right? You know what I mean? So just make sure, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to concrete flooring, you know what I mean, you get that, you know, those two paints, I mean, according to Home Depot standard, that's all I saw, right? But anyway, you know what I'm saying, let's go ahead and move on to roofing. So roofing paint, you know what I'm saying, if I remember correctly, you know what I mean, they did, you know what I'm saying, have this type of roofing material, you know what I'm saying. It was, I believe it was somewhere, maybe they changed so much shit around. It probably was in on the end of aisle 7, or maybe it was actually in Millworks, because Millworks do with roofings and windows and shit, right? But it's like some type of material, you know what I'm saying, some type of shit, you know what I'm saying, that you apply, you know what I'm saying, to the roof and shit like that, you know what I mean? So that's really the only type of, you know what I'm saying, roofing material I've seen for paint. And I would just assume, obviously, just, you know what I'm saying, as far as to apply paint on it, you can just pick, you know what I'm saying, depending on the roofing, right? Well, I mean, people have metal roofs, some got brick roofs, you know what I'm saying, all that other shit, wooden roofs, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of that shit, depending on the roofing, you know what I'm saying, all that plays a role into, you know what I'm saying, what type of paint you want to use. I would just use any type of regular exterior paint for that, you know what I'm saying? And then you go from there, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I would do for that, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's all I can really say for the roofing part and shit like that. And then when it pertains to everything else, I think that's pretty much it. That's all I can really say. You know what I'm saying? That's all I can really say when it pertains, you know what I mean, to roofing and some shit like that. That's about it. You know what I'm saying? That's about it and shit. You know what I mean? So, when it comes to exterior, I think I explained, you know, about everything, and obviously the application of it still applies on what, you know, utensil you want to use for the roof, and, you know, same for the concrete, all that shit. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know what I'm saying. I think that's pretty much it. That's all I can really say about exterior painting and shit. You know what I'm saying? In a nutshell, this is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what else to really talk about. Next go around, I'll give out, you know what I'm saying, more painting knowledge, but like I said, I did the intro in the beginning. I give out outside, you know what I'm saying, this video. So the next video, I'll definitely, you know what I'm saying, try to talk about something else. I gotta think about it. We'll probably get more into the science of it and shit like that, you know what I mean? So I look forward to doing that and shit. But I hope y'all enjoyed this video and shit, you know what I'm saying? If you did, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.